Hi there, it's Jane here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be another one of my podcast episodes where I basically talk about all of my finished objects, all of my works and progresses from recently, and yeah, anything else that's been happening. I have quite a few finished objects to show you today because it's been a while since I've done one of these. I think I've got 4 finished objects, a lot of socks to show, and a new work in progress. I will just start by talking quickly about what I'm wearing. This is my June top by PetiteKnit. It's the DK version of the June top. I did talk about this in more detail in my previous video, which was all of the summer tops that I've knitted. So I won't go into too much detail about it. I didn't really make any changes to the pattern. I used 1 strand of Knitting for Olive pure silk in the colour Dusty Artichoke, and 1 strand of Sandnes Garn Alpakka Silke in the colour Sand to create this kind of marled effect. It's nice and lightweight with the silk. It keeps it nice and cool, but the alpaca makes it nice and soft as well. So it's a really nice combination. Okay, so I will start off with my finished objects, and I'm going to begin with the one that I'm most excited about and most excited to show you. So this one is a gift knit for my sister who's having a baby in a couple of months' time. I've been really wanting to make a baby blanket, in particular one by Augustins Knitwear. If you're not familiar with her, she's got a lot of like really beautiful romantic designs. She's got a few children's patterns now, which are called like the mini Augustins patterns. And within those, she's got 3, I think 3 at least, 3 patterns for like really beautiful lacy baby blankets. And they all kind of follow a similar construction. So they're all circular, and they're knitted in the round. Starting from the center, you cast on just a few stitches and join it in the round, and then you kind of like increase outwards, and then you knit a border along the outside as well. So there's 3 of these patterns. I knitted the first one that she designed, so it's called Mini Augustins number 1. I've been wanting to make this pattern for a while because it's so beautiful. I'm really excited to show you this one. So this is what it looks like, and it's almost finished. I just need to sew up, I need to sew together this end. So where you start the border, when you finish the border, you kind of just have that to sew together at the end, but that's all of the making up that you need to do. I also need to weave in the ends as well, but that shouldn't take too long. I hope, anyway, there aren't too many ends to weave in. I actually saw my sister at the weekend and I was supposed to give it to her then. I did show it to her, but I was like, I'm just going to sew the ends together and then I'll give it to you. But I completely forgot to do that before she left. So I will probably need to post this up to her so it'll arrive in time for the baby. So I'll show you the yarn that I used for this. I showed this in my last podcast, I think, but I hadn't started this one in my last video. And this is Drops Baby Merino. The colour is called Wheat, or it's number 59. It's like a pinkish leaning off-white. It's quite a cool toned off-white, maybe like a mushroom kind of colour. The recommended yarn is called number 4 Merino, Gotland Hjelholts. So this is a Danish yarn brand, but it's not one that I've ever come across in the UK. It's possible that it's available to buy. Honestly, I haven't actually done any research into it because I just knew that I wasn't going to use it anyway. But I tried to find something that would give a similar gauge. So the pattern recommends using a 4mm circular needle, and the yarn, it's 100 grams equals 650 meters, and it's held double. So I kind of guess that gives like a sport weight, or a light DK weight on a 4mm needle. So I went for something that would be kind of vaguely similar. I think maybe the yarn that I used is a little bit lighter weight than the one that is recommended to use. You might get a better effect if you use a DK or a light DK, whereas the Drops Baby Merino that I have is more of a 4-ply, or like a heavy 4-ply. So I went down to a 3.75mm needle. Not a huge change, but when I started knitting it on a 4mm needle, I just didn't like how gappy the stitches were. I mean, it is a lace pattern anyway, so there are just going to be holes in it naturally. It's not too big a problem, but I prefer how it looked on a 3.75mm needle. and I'll just show you again. I think it kind of worked out well. It's definitely going to be more of a decorative pram blanket, I think, rather than like an especially warm and cuddly blanket. It's also not huge. I mean, for a newborn baby, it will cover them up, but it's not going to be like a really warm, snuggly, cozy blanket. If I had used a DK yarn, that would have probably been more snuggly. It would have also ended up a lot bigger as well, which probably wouldn't have been a bad thing. But no, I'm overall quite happy. There were times when I thought this was going to end up way too small, but in the end, after I blocked it, it did stretch out a lot. So I was very grateful for that. The pattern I thought was really well explained. It's the first Augustins pattern that I have ever used. It's all split up into different sections, and then at the end of each section, you increase more stitches for the next section. So you're gradually just creating this circle shape. Honestly, I think this is a lot simpler than it probably looks. I mean, maybe if you're a complete beginner to lace, it's not the best beginner project, but at the same time, there isn't really anything that's that complex here because you're always using like fairly short pattern repeats. Some of it is charted as well. I think this section here and this section is charted, whereas sometimes it's given in written instructions. So for example, the border was given in written instructions because the lace isn't overly complicated. But to be honest, I really like charts because I like to be able to visualize what I'm doing rather than trying to like follow written instructions. I think I make more mistakes with written instructions than with charts. But yeah, I definitely think that if you wanted to make this but you thought that it looks way too complicated, I really don't think it's as complicated as it looks. Having said that, it's one of those ones where if you do make a mistake, it's not the easiest to go back and fix mistakes when you're working on something like lace. However, I think I probably did make a mistake once or twice, but I have no idea where they are. Like maybe I missed out a yarn over or something like that in a couple of places, but I really can't tell where that happened. So there's quite a lot going on here, which kind of will also help to hide your mistakes. Yeah, I really want to make another one of these, but maybe one of our other patterns next time. I really like the look of the Mini Augustins number 5. This is another beautiful lacy baby blanket shawl type of thing. I'll put a little picture of it so you can see. I have plans to make one of these for someone else. This does use a DK weight yarn. So the recommended yarn is Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino or 2 strands of Cardiff Cashmere held together. And I think it's on a 5mm needle, but I'll double check that. I will not be using those yarns because, especially the cashmere, I mean, while I'm sure that would be an absolutely beautiful blanket and would make an amazing gift for someone, I just don't have that kind of budget. So I will probably use something like Drops Daisy, which I think would also be really soft and really lovely. Oh yeah, I didn't mention, but this Drops Baby Merino, this is a superwash merino. So it's not like as soft as other ones, but honestly, I think the texture is quite nice still. I wanted to choose something that would just be fairly practical for a baby, non-scratchy, but also easy to look after. Having said that, my sister is a knitter as well, and she is currently knitting a baby blanket using Knitting for Olive Merino. So now I feel like I should have maybe used something slightly nicer for this one because she does know how to like look after merino. Like I know she wouldn't just like put it in the washing machine or something like that. Okay, the next finished object I'm going to show you. Again, this one, I still need to finish off some small details. I need to put buttons on, but other than that, it is finished. All of the knitting is finished anyway. Same as with the blanket that I just showed. I hadn't started this one in my previous podcast episode, but I did show you the yarn. So this is some of the yarn that I bought while I was on holiday in Denmark. And this is what I have made. Now, it's not very easy to see probably because it's a cardigan and it's really difficult to show cardigans when they're not being worn. If I had the buttons in, it would be a lot easier to show you because I could just button it up. But this is the cardigan number 9 by My Favourite Things Knitwear. So I'll tell you about the yarn first. I used Gepard Garn Woolia to make this. Now, this is one of the recommended yarns for the project. However, in the original sample, she recommends using one strand of Woolia held together with one strand of their like kid silk mohair. I didn't use the mohair, I just used Woolia on its own. So there's a couple of reasons for this. I mean, firstly, the cost. Woolia is fairly budget friendly, especially for merino. It is a 100% merino yarn, and I think it's maybe like £5.50 for a 50-gram ball. But each 50-gram ball has got 130-ish meters in it. So there's quite a lot of meters per ball. So it goes quite a long way compared to other DKs. And actually this one can be used as a DK or like a worsted / Aran weight. Like you can use it on a 4mm needle or a 5mm needle. If you're using it as like a worsted or Aran weight, it will obviously go a lot further than other Aran weights, which maybe only have like 80 meters per 50 grams. And this also helps because it makes it more lightweight as a finished garment, because you're using, for example, I used 350 grams for this, whereas if I'd used another Aran weight yarn, I would have ended up using like closer to 500 or 550, 600 grams, I don't know. And I do like nice lightweight cardigans. I don't really like really heavy chunky knitwear. I like things to be lightweight. So leaving out the mohair as well just made it more lightweight. So I bought this from the yarn shop Uldspinderi in Copenhagen, and they had a sample of this cardigan knit in Woolia plus a mohair. It felt quite heavy for me, for my personal tastes. So I thought I'll just give it a go with just the Woolia. One thing about the Woolia is I've heard that it does pill a lot on its own. So the benefit of using a mohair with it, things usually pill slightly less. In my experience anyway, when I use mohair in projects, it reduces pilling because it reduces the friction. But, you know, I'm sure pilling is inevitable. I will just deal with it. I'm hoping that it will be worth it for the lovely soft cardigan. Yeah, as I said, I used 350 grams, so 7 skeins of the Woolia for this project. I had just enough. I was so worried that I was going to run out. I thought that I was going to have to get an extra skein just to finish off the neckband, which would have been so annoying. But I just got away with it. So I was very pleased about that. According to the pattern, 350 grams is what I needed. But I think because I didn't use the mohair, that meant that I was probably using slightly more of this. I didn't actually gauge swatch when I started this. And the reason for that was because I wasn't using mohair. I knew that my gauge would probably be slightly off, but also I kind of wanted my gauge to be off because I wanted it to be a bit more fitted and less oversized as well. So if it ended up being a bit smaller, that was fine. I was okay with that. Having said that, you know, it's still a good idea to do a swatch anyway, so that you can kind of calculate how much smaller it will be. But yeah, I just winged it and it worked out fine. So I got quite lucky there. I actually did measure my gauge after finishing this and blocking it. My gauge was 16 stitches and 24 rows per 10 centimeter squared, which, if I remember correctly, is the same stitch gauge as is in the pattern, and I think just like 1 stitch out for row gauge. So I think the recommended row gauge was 23 stitches. So it really didn't make much of a difference, more in row gauge than in stitch gauge. So that's probably where I used slightly more yarn than I was supposed to. As I say, I've not put the buttons on yet, but I have got buttons for it. I bought toggles originally because I really like the look of the toggles in the sample. When I put the toggles against the cardigan, I don't know, just something, I just didn't really like how it looked. I wasn't really sure about them. I thought that they were going to be so cute. Maybe it was the colour that was slightly off, or maybe they were just a bit too big for the cardigan. But I put a little poll up on my Instagram stories just to see what other people thought, whether they liked the toggles or preferred buttons. Actually, most people said keep the toggles, but by that point I had already decided I didn't want the toggles. So I will show you the buttons that I've got. Oh dear, I just dropped a button and it went under my chest of drawers. So that's great. So I will try and show you these buttons, and I'm going to try and do that thing that people do to make it focus. I think they will look nice on this cardigan. I wanted dark buttons for it, and I think maybe the toggles that I had were too light. They were kind of like an orangey brown. I got some thread as well in a matching colour to sew it on. I tried using some leftover yarn. As I say, I didn't really have any leftover yarn, so this is all of basically the ends. After I've woven all the ends, that's what this is. But the yarn is just a bit too chunky to fit through the eye of the needle, or like the holes on the buttons themselves. So I've just got like a extra strong top stitching thread to sew them on. That's the next job for this one. I'm really excited to wear this one when the weather gets a bit cooler again. I think it'll be great for autumn and winter, and it's a beautiful colour as well. Oh, I didn't tell you the colour. The colour is called Cherry. It'll have a number as well, so I will put that in the description. More of a blue leaning red than an orange leaning red. I really love it. I think it's beautiful. So my next finished object is just a very little one, and I will show you it quickly because I know that this one isn't very interesting. You probably have seen a lot of these already, and probably most people are very bored of seeing these from what I gather. Yes, it is a Sophie scarf. It is my very first Sophie scarf though. I have knitted the Sophie shawl though, so it's kind of the same thing basically, just at a different gauge. I actually didn't buy the pattern for the Sophie scarf because I'd already bought the pattern for the Sophie shawl. You can kind of work it out. You just use a different needle size. But I'll talk about the yarn quickly. It's Knitting for Olive compatible cashmere, held double, and this is the colour Wild Berries, which is a really beautiful pink. I had never seen the appeal in the Sophie scarf, if I'm completely honest. Like the Sophie shawl, yes, because I do like a nice big chunky winter scarf, but I've never really been much of a little scarf person. When I was in Copenhagen, I saw so many people with Sophie scarves. They just looked really cute. It just really made me want to make one as well. The reason that I bought this yarn was because, I bought this yarn while I was in Copenhagen from the shop Sommerfuglen, but I didn't buy enough. And it's not one that you can buy in the UK. I did check. I also wanted it ideally to be the same dye lot. So I ordered another skein of this from the same wool shop in Copenhagen. But I didn't want to just order one ball of yarn. So I also got 2 balls of the compatible cashmere to make a Sophie scarf. So that's kind of the reason why I have this now. Okay, so my next finished object, this is one of my own designs, which is kind of exciting. I have been knitting a lot of socks recently. I think 3 socks on the go at the moment. Well, 2, because one of them is finished. So I'll show you the finished one first. I have been showing this one a lot on my Instagram because this one is currently being test knitted. It's called the Bloomin Lovely Sock. It's just a little colourwork, floral, folksy style sock. I do have both of these so I can show you the pair. This one needs to be blocked still. So this is the unblocked version. This is the blocked version. You can kind of see the before and after difference there. As I say, it's currently being tested and I'm hoping to release it in a couple of weeks' time. I think it's like mid-August the test knit is due to end. Some test knitters have already finished at least 1 sock, which is great. When I've done test knits for socks before, I always give like a month because I think that is more than enough time. I mean, and when I've done them, people usually finish the first sock within like a week or 2. So I think a month is kind of enough to finish both if you want to, but it's definitely enough to finish one. I used Filcolana Arwetta for the main colour, and I think it's just called Off-White. I tried just using some leftover yarn that I had in my stash for the colours. Each flower has got like 2-tone petals, and they alternate in each pattern repeat, and they also kind of like move places as well. But some of my test knitters have just done like them all the same colour. I think there's one version where she's just done blue petals, so they're like little forget-me-nots, which is really cute, which is really cool. I really like to see like how people will change up the pattern slightly. I mean, it's not a huge modification, but it's just nice to see different versions. Everyone's gone kind of different colour schemes as well, so no one's really chosen the same thing. Some people have gone for like bright colours, some people have gone for neutrals, so it's really nice to see how the pattern comes out with these different colour schemes. So I'm really excited about this one. It's got a shadow wrap short row heel. I use this technique for my Cardigan socks. It's my favourite way to do a short row heel. I mean, my favourite heel really is the heel flap and gusset because I think it gives a better fit. But to be honest, I think this one gives a good fit as well. The shadow wrap heel I think is just slightly neater than a regular short row heel. It doesn't have as many like big holes or gaps in it that you can sometimes get with short row heels. The reason why I've gone for the short row for this pattern and for the Cardigan socks rather than a heel flap and gusset is so that you can just continue the colour work onto the foot and it won't disrupt the stitch count, whereas when you do a heel flap and gusset you end up with a lot more stitches on the sole of the foot, so it kind of makes the colour work kind of tricky to do. I mean, there are ways that you can get around this with colour work, but if you just want a repeated pattern throughout, then a short row heel or an afterthought heel give you that option to just like continue doing the same pattern. So that's why, as I say, it will be released mid-August, I'm hoping, if all goes well. I have got another couple of socks that I've been knitting as well, and these are also my own patterns, which I think I'm going to write into patterns. I have some ideas. I will tell you what my ideas are. So this sock doesn't have a name yet, but I am planning on writing this one into a pattern as well. It's fairly simple, kind of nice and repetitive lace pattern. The lace kind of creates this sort of diamond effect. I used West Yorkshire Spinners Signature 4-ply for this one, which is just like a nice, pretty standard sock yarn that is widely available in the UK. So this is the colour Nutmeg. I also used some of this in my Bloomin Lovely sock. So I used it here for like the middle bit of the flower. It's knit on a 2.25mm needle. It's got a 2x2 rib cuff. Then you start working lace. This one does have just a slip stitch heel flap and then gusset construction with just stocking stitch on the sole of the foot and then lace on top. So yeah, I'm going to write the pattern for that one as well and get that one out soon. So the other sock that I've been working on is a bit silly. I just had this idea, I really wanted to make a sock that looked like a strawberry. So that's what I did. So I'll just talk about the yarn quickly. This is Filcolana Arwetta for all of the colours. I think it's Avocado for the green. This red, I think, is Chinese red, and the yellow is straw. This one, as you can see, I have done a heel flap and gusset, and I continued the colour work on the sole of the foot. It's a simple colour work pattern with just specks of yellow, so it was fairly easy to just like adjust where the specks are. And then there's some more colour work around the cuff as well, like little triangles that are supposed to look like the leaves on this top of the strawberry. With this one, the first time I knitted this, I had the idea that I was going to do like a ruffle on the cuff, and the ruffle was to represent the little leaves and the stalk. But I did this and I just didn't like how it looked. So I just unraveled it and just did this kind of colour work effect instead. So I've been thinking about making this one into a YouTube tutorial that would be a free pattern, just because it is quite simple, but it maybe introduces a couple of new techniques, but in a very like simple way. I've not made the second sock for this one yet because the plan is obviously to record myself as I make it so that I can talk through it. I'll have a go and see if it's any good. It might be no good. Anyway, this is the silly strawberry sock. I have got one new work in progress to show you. So this was the yarn. I showed this in my last video as well. I got this when I was in Copenhagen. It's called Håndværksgarn by Hjelholts Uldspinderi. And this colour, I think it's called Sand, or colour number 23. When I went into the shop, they had two like off-white shades. One of them was more yellow, had more yellow in it, and then one of them had more like grey in it. And this is the one with more grey. So when you knit it, it's actually kind of like a very, very light grey. So I am using this to make a Dagmar jacket by PetiteKnit. So I'll show you my progress. I've only really just started. This is the back yoke. It's got this kind of honeycomb cable pattern in the middle, and then some more cables on the sides. This is going to be a long project, I can already tell. The honeycomb cable does take quite a lot of effort. I've not done like a properly all over cable project in so long. So it's really nice to do, but it is a lot of cabling involved. Like some cable jumpers I've made in the past don't actually have that much actual cables in them, but this one, there's a lot of cables. So it does take time, but I think it'll be really cool. I think this is going to be like a really thick, cozy jacket slash cardigan. The yarn that I'm using isn't actually the recommended one. The recommended one is a bit thicker than this. It's by the same yarn company, but it's like their Aran weight, whereas this one is more of like a worsted DK. It's 100 grams is 200 meters, whereas the recommended one is something like 100 grams is 160 meters, so it's a bit thicker. But that will mean that hopefully this one will be a bit lighter weight than if I was using the recommended yarn, which with cables I think will be nice because cables do tend to make things a lot thicker. Also, you need more yarn when you're doing cables anyway, so that will just make it heavier overall. Like I knitted a sweater number 20 by My Favorite Things Knitwear a couple of years ago, and that is also kind of knitted in Aran weight gauge, and it's oversized with lots of cables. It is so heavy, I never really wear it. So I'm hoping with this one, because I'm using like a slightly lighter yarn, I won't have that issue. It's just nice to have, after finishing my cardigan number 9, which was just like an all over stocking stitch pattern, it's nice to have one now which has got a bit more going on in it. That's the only work in progress I have at the moment. I mean, I do obviously have more which have kind of been put to the side. This is just the ones that I'm actively working on. I'm just going to quickly update about my Barbroe blouse because I showed this one in my last podcast and I'd made quite a lot of progress. I would have probably been finished by now, but basically I have decided to frog it and start again, which is really annoying because I got really far into it. So I'll just show you quickly. This is basically where it was when I showed it in my last video. I did separate the front and the back and started knitting the back. But I also was able to try it on, and it's supposed to have negative ease, and it's lace as well, and lace stretches once it's blocked. And this is already like unblocked, and it's got positive ease rather than negative ease. So I am going to knit the size down. I didn't do a swatch when I knitted it first time around, so I think I will do a swatch this time and block it so I can see how much it will end up growing, because the gauge given in the pattern, I'm not sure if it's going to match up to it. And I've just seen a lot of comments on the pattern now where people have had the same issue where the sizing is just a bit off. I also find the instructions mildly confusing. Like it was fine up until here because you're just kind of knitting a tube. There's no shaping or anything to do. You're just following the charts and knitting in the round. So that was fine. But once you get to the back panels and the front panels, you're doing a lot of shaping for like the keyhole at the back, shaping around the armholes, shaping the neckline, and then the sleeves are knitted separately and they have a lot of shaping as well. And those instructions I don't really understand. So I think I'm going to have to have a proper look at it, read through, try and understand what's supposed to be happening first and work it out from there. It's a shame because I was really enjoying knitting this, but I'm just trying to look on the positive side that, you know, I get to knit it again now. But I'm using Knitting for Olive Merino, which is a really lovely yarn to work with. So yeah, I would like to finish that one, ideally to wear it like in autumn, winter, because I think it's such a lovely like autumn winter colour. It's the colour Rust, by the way. So it would be really nice to finish it in the next few months, but given that I'm going to have to start again, I don't know if that's going to happen. I mean, I did knit all of this in like a couple of weeks, so I made really fast progress with it. But I always find that when I have to start again, I just lose my motivation. So that's why I've kind of started something new, because I just need a break from this one at the moment. And I'm hoping that when I come back to it, I'll be motivated and excited to work on it again, and not just like, ugh, I've already done all this. Why do I have to do it again? So yeah, that's just a little update on that one, just in case anyone was wondering what happened. Hello, it's Editing Jane here. So unfortunately, my phone ran out of battery just before I got to finish that video properly, but I had showed everything that I wanted to show you anyway. I will hopefully be back very soon with hopefully a new pattern release by the time I do my next video. I don't get an awful lot of time at the moment to like record videos and edit them, so I do want to record more often, but it really just depends when I get the time. But thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again very, very soon. Bye bye.